Hi, my name is Joan, the career coach. Welcome back to yet another episode. Today, I'm super excited to have one of Kenya's top HR leaders, Wycliffe Osoro. Welcome.
Thank you, Joan. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So, of course, I know you, but then, for someone who's watching and they've never, met the amazing Wycliffe Osoro.
Yeah.
Who is Wiki?
Interestingly.
Is it Wiki or Wiki? Just clarify.
Whichever you want to go with, it's Wycliffe, preferably. Wiki is close people to me, but it's fine. Yeah, so who am I? I'm a HR leader, like Joanne has introduced me. Very passionate about HR, passionate about leadership, passionate about children, interestingly. I teach children, so I'm very passionate about that. The other thing is I'm what you'd call an avid golfer. So I play golf quite a bit. And also I run when I'm not playing golf. So that's me.
All right. I'm so honored to have you today, and I'm hoping in the next 30 minutes or so we are going to be able to get as much from you as possible. So today I wanted us to talk about some of the challenges that professionals face in their careers, because then sometimes people stagnate. Sometimes people find it very difficult to move, organizations, or to climb up their career ladder for one reason or the other. It could be imposter syndrome. It could be, personal, personal reasons. It could be, a mismatch between them and their bosses. So maybe we can start by, what are some of the challenges that many professionals normally face, especially mid-career, when it comes to advancing in their careers?
Okay. Great. That's an interesting question. I think if I look at any professional in any field, there's a certain path that you'd like your career to take.
Right.
And I know the challenge that most professionals face is that you feel that you want to grow at a rate that someone else's rate. So my first advice is, you want to grow, you determine your pace, but your pace doesn't have to be someone else's pace.
Right.
So your pace is your own pace. How you then grow in your career is determined by what actions you take as an individual.
Right.
There's no, there's nothing that will say for you to get into a marketing director role, it's going to take you 10 years. For some people, it's going to take 5 years. For some people, it's going to take 10 years. Others, it's going to take 20 years. But there's specific things that people do to be able to then grow and advance in their career. And a lot of it is being purposeful and having a purpose in terms of where you want to go in your career.
Right.
And determining what steps it is that you want to take to get there. So personal development is very key in terms of when you want to advance your career. So I think also being very clear to your managers and your leaders on, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to grow. So taking the steps to develop yourself,
Right.
In terms of getting the actual skills that you require for the next level. So once you've identified the next level that you want to be in, you need to know what are the core skills that are required, either soft skills or technical skills for that role. And where do I match? And also have honest opinions. There are people who have mentors, and I think it's a really good thing to have a mentor. Because a mentor in your line understands what is required for you to grow in your field.
Right.
So they'll be able to critique you and tell you where they think you are in terms of your development, whether it's technical or soft skills. So that's one of the things that you can be able to do.
Yeah.
To be able to grow yourself. So being very clear about the path that you want to take, the time that you need to take, the skills that you need to get, the support that you're going to get, either from your mentor or your line manager or the people that you're working with.
Right.
It's important for you to do that.
Right.
Of course, the challenges that people face is sometimes there's a comfort zone that you sort of get into. And where you either stagnate in terms of your performance. So you're not performing badly. You're not, you're an average performer or a good performer. But then in terms of the ambition to then, or the potential that it takes to then take up the next level, or ambition to actually take the next level, is where maybe there's that mismatch.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's where I want us to dwell on. I like what you've said, that different people are going to have different paces. So, like, your
Yes.
pace is not going to be my pace. Your ambitions are not going to be my ambitions, and it's very important that everybody gets very clear about, this is the path that I want. This is how long I want to take, and don't compare your path with anyone else's, because we are we are all gifted differently.
Yeah.
But let's talk about being complacent, because like, for me, there's a difference between contentment, which actually the Bible says you need. Contentment is great gain.
Yes.
You don't want to be somewhere and then you're wishing you were another place.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. But then again, if you are supposed to be here, and you're here, and the reason why you're here, it's it's because of like maybe fear, or you've not, as you're saying, you've not upskilled, you've not formed the right networks, you've not even thought about a plan.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that someone can do to get out of that complacency? Because then that comfort zone, you remember what Jenny used to say,
Yeah.
comfort and growth cannot coexist.
They cannot coexist. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So that you're constantly putting yourself in places where you're uncomfortable, because then when you're growing, you're not comfortable. It's very uncomfortable. It's very scary. It's very annoying. There are actually so many naysayers, but you actually need that kind of environment to to grow and thrive. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how should you or what are some of the things that you need to do to ensure that you're not complacent in your career, because then if you get yourself into a comfort zone whereby you're very sure about the pay, I'm getting X amount and I'm happy with 50,000, and maybe your capacity is 250,000. This 50,000, I'm able to pay my rent, I'm able to buy my food, my kids are taken care of, and I'm happy. So, Joanne, why are you telling me to leave this, like this job? But maybe your capacity is for 250,000. So, what are some of the things that someone can think about? As you're thinking about like what your potential is, so that then you don't find yourself in this place where you're complacent with your career.
I think one of the things that you can think about really is, if, for example, going to work every day, it's like you can do it with your eyes closed. Basically, there's a problem.
All right.
If you do not require to think too much, you're not challenged. Your job is easy. Yes, there's the aspect of what you earn and how you make a living out of what you earn. And how comfortable you are. Maybe you don't want to have as much, but then there's your potential and what you can actually get.
Right.
So I think the challenge is, if you feel that you're not challenged, and sometimes you don't realize it, you just say, I'm enjoying my job, I really like it, I love my job, but the people around you can basically see maybe you can do much more.
Yeah.
And anytime there are projects and there's opportunity for you to participate in that, and you don't do that, anytime someone asks you to do something that's not your regular day-to-day and you don't do it, then those are sort of signs that you're probably getting a bit complacent.
Right.
And you're not, you're happy where you are.
Yeah.
You don't really want to get challenged. But then there's fear. There's fear that, what if I fail? That's a challenge.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's discussions about whether you're having a fixed or a growth mindset, and some of it is people fear to fail.
Right.
And when you fear to fail, then you cannot try.
Right.
So the only way, like you've talked about, yes, there's comfort and growth that don't go together. So you have to be able to accept that you will take that step, and if you fail, it is just a learning for you to then get better.
Advance. Because I think society has made failure a negative thing. Yet, if you're not failing, you're not trying.
Yeah.
Like for me, there's no success without failure. And in fact, like one of the questions I like asking candidates in an interview are, it's tell me of a time when you failed. I don't know, so, like, there are so many people who are so afraid of that question, so they'll say, like, I've never failed. But I want to know, because all of us have failed, like in one thing or the other, so that you are comfortable enough to fail at something. I think is really important.
Yeah, I think I'll just draw from an analogy. I mentioned earlier on that I run quite a bit.
Yeah.
And in the last 2-3 years, I was running quite a bit and still do. So when I started running, my challenge was I wanted to run 10 kilometers in 1 hour.
Crazy.
1 hour flat. And I kept on trying, but I didn't start by trying to run 10 kilometers at one go. So I started with 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 6, got to 8 kilometers. And the day when I got to finally try the 10 kilometers, I did it in 1 hour. And I think I missed it by about 45 seconds. So it was 1 hour and about 45 seconds. And if I wanted to give up, I would have given up.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what? My goal was to get it in the 1 hour. And then I was able to keep going at it. So I failed because I had set my target of 1 hour, but I failed. So what did I do? Did I give up? I said, no, I'm going to do it. And I tried again. And believe me, the week that I ran under 1 hour, I ran 55 minutes on a Monday, 55 minutes on a Wednesday, and 55 minutes on a Friday.
Wow.
So that means that, a lot of times when you've set a target and you fail, you just have to keep trying.
Yeah.
You just have to keep trying.
Because what did you do differently from the 60 minutes, 45 seconds and the 55?
It's just all about pacing. So I realized where I would slow down and how to pace from the first kilometer. How do I start strong and then finish strong? So I knew all that. And then also interestingly, in running, there's also routes. So you just figure out which is the route that you're most comfortable with and which route gives you a challenge. So yes, it's a mental thing because there are different ways to get that. If I was running downhill throughout, I would have gotten that 1 hour in a very quickly.
Yeah.
But then it's a mix of uphill, downhill, and all that. And eventually I was able to, I think, even do those 10 kilometers in 48 minutes at some point. So it's just stretching yourself and not giving up and just saying, there's different routes. Like in that analogy of running, there's different routes.
Yeah.
That feel good factor will then make you, once you've achieved it, then you can be able to try again.
Right. I actually love that analogy because then it also brings out the aspects of you have to strategize.
Yeah.
You had to think about what are the other different ways of skinning this cat because it's not just one one particular way. And I think sometimes when we become so complacent, it's because we think there's only one way. And we are so afraid of thinking about different ways of growth of growth. So now, for example, you might think this organization is the best there is in the world. This X amount of money, I can't get any other organization to pay me, but it's because you've not looked, out there, you've not branded yourself, you've not, put yourself out there to, to check, what else is there. So I actually really love that analogy. So we've talked about signs that you are, currently complacent in your, maybe job, career.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you can tell us that someone can do to get out of that comfort zone?
It's very uncomfortable, but I think you just have to keep trying. I say sometimes, for example, it's interesting. You can actually apply for jobs just for the sake of applying for jobs because you want to have that experience. You want to go out there, interview, get to sort of understand what are people asking.
Yeah.
Am I good at it, or not? That's one of the ways that you can be able to do that. Challenge yourself and take up projects. I keep saying that even I always tell people sometimes the first easiest place to grow is within your own organization if you're employed. That's the first easiest place to grow because you can start asking to take up additional responsibilities, and you offer yourself, not wait to be told, offer yourself to do those additional responsibilities. That's something that you can do. When you apply for these jobs and try and go through interviews, it's almost like you're benchmarking yourself out there and trying to understand am I as good as everyone else? You may get those offers, you may not get the offers. Then you get to understand, how is the career that I am in, what are people thinking about it out there compared to where you are in your comfort zone, which is your own organization. But even within your own organization, sometimes people, and that's where, especially anytime we're interviewing internal candidates where I work and many places where I've worked, is that we just don't prepare.
Yeah, true.
Because you always assume. So even trying to get those opportunities even within your own organization gives you an opportunity to just say, you know what, I may possibly grow. I've also talked about mentors. It's very important to have mentors. It's important to have coaches. There's a difference. So coaches would, help you with your leadership. Coaches are not necessarily people who are in your field or line. They just help you discover yourself, help you be able to, get the best out of you. A mentor understands what it is that you're doing. And maybe they'll be able to look at it and say, you've been doing this for 10 years. There's no way you can still be performing at this level. If you've done it for 10 years, you must be really good at this.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways. I think it's that simple. And a lot of it is self-discovery. You really need to introspect and sort of look at yourself and say, is this what I want to do? Is this, am I happy with what I'm doing?
Right. And if you're watching this and you've just started your career, maybe like this is your second year or third year, this is really important for you to know and understand. Because for me, one person can get fired out of work because of stealing or gross misconduct. And trust me, if you never steal, never do any, bad thing, but you are complacent, there's no difference between you and this other person, right?
Really?
Yeah, because there are people who have, like for so many years, they've sat on their potential because nobody told them year one.
Yeah.
Because you see how our society is made, like finish campus, get a job at IBM or Microsoft or Google, make that money. So what happens when you finish campus, you get this job and you're paid, like good money, you just forget.
Yeah.
Because then, you're living the dream. But we don't really advocate for, like, what are your strengths, your skills, and your passions? Where do you want to go? What is your capacity? What are some of the things that you need to do to grow your capacity? So there are so many people sitting with a lot of potential, but it's because they've never thought about it.
Yeah.
So you see, this person is in a prison, the same as another person who maybe steals, and their career is ruined.
Yeah, so I get it, Joanne. What you're saying is really, you're robbing from yourself.
Exactly.
Basically.
One person is robbing the company.
But you're robbing yourself because ideally you should be making much more out of yourself than you really are.
Right.
So, and I think it's, like I said, really, there's people whose career is going to be a sprint. There's people whose career is going to be a middle distance race. There's people who's going to be a marathon.
Yeah.
So you really... And that's why we also don't need to judge and say, have you grown? Have you not grown?
Exactly.
But if you are running a sprint, there's a pace for that sprint.
Right.
If you're running a marathon, there's a pace.
Right.
So are you going at that pace?
Right. I like that.
Because if you say that I wanna become a HR director in 10 years, say from when you've graduated campus. If by year 8 you're still a HR assistant, then there's no way.
There's a problem. Yeah.
But if you've set a target and you said, I want to be a HR director by year 5, in the second year you're already, taking up an acting HR manager role, maybe when someone is on leave. In the 4th year you're already, taking up a HR manager role. In the 5th year you can easily get there.
Yeah.
So that pacing is really important. That you're moving at the pace that gets you to the target that you need to get.
Exactly. I like that. I like that a lot. And before we close, there's also this aspect for surround yourself with people who call you out. Because then if all your friends, if everyone in my circle tells me, oh my God, Joanne, you're doing great. You're doing great. You're amazing. And there's no one who tells me, these three areas, you're struggling, you need to do like XYZ, then it's very easy for someone to become complacent, right?
Yeah. So there's two ways to look at it. It's always good to have a cheering squad, your own board of directors, who really just tell you
I know.
You're doing well, because
Yeah.
encouragement is key.
It is.
But then they also have to be real. They have to, like you're saying, they have to be people who will be able to tell you that in as much as you're doing well, you
Yeah.
can do much better.
Right.
And I think you should take up these opportunities. And also surrounding yourself with people who are... I always say, if you walk into the room and you're the brightest in the room, spend the least amount of time.
That room.
And try and walk into a place where you're getting challenged more.
Yeah.
It's not bad, because you also have to give back.
Yeah.
So if you're at a level where you can be able to give back to the people who
Right.
are developing,
okay.
it's
okay.
good.
It's
But
okay.
you can't spend your time doing that.
Right.
You also
But
need to draw from people who are
Yeah.
better than you, who can can challenge you,
Right.
can tell you that I think you can do better than
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes also we surround ourselves with frenemies. There are so many people around you who you might think like they are cheering you on, but they actually see your potential, but they'll never tell you.
Yeah.
Or they'll see your potential, and then when you're like maybe you've been thinking about like maybe starting a business or doing this and that, then you go and tell them, and then they're like, there's no way, absolutely no way. And they can actually see the potential in that thing, but they're going to kill your dream, right?
Okay, I don't think people kill your dream intentionally. So a lot of times we see, if like you tell me you're going to do business, I try and see that business from my own perspective.
Right.
If I feel that I cannot do well in that business,
You'll
I
tell me.
also feel that you will not do.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if you call it a paradox or what. You'll also feel like I can't do as well.
Yeah.
So why are you going to challenge yourself? It's a difficult thing to do. But everyone has different strengths.
Right.
So as friends, you really need to encourage each other. Encourage someone,
Exactly.
tell them, I think you can do this. Oh, what support do you need to be able to do this? Not, I don't think you can do this.
Yeah.
But can you really go out and do it? Or can you really try and get a job elsewhere? Or they're down to say, me, if I could get, if I could work for X company, I would really be happy. But you're working for X, but you want to challenge yourself. So they'll tell you, don't move because that's the place I would want to work.
Yeah.
Why would you want to move? But they're seeing their worldview is through their eyes.
Exactly.
Not through you.
Exactly.
And what it is that you can be able to do. So
exactly. Yeah. So like that, the people that you surround yourself with, I know there are so many people who are stuck. And the people who will never grow out of the place where they are because of the kind of people who they've surrounded themselves with, right? Like there's this, I don't know if it's a quote or a saying, like, sometimes you might think that you're depressed, but then when you change your circle, you realize you're just okay. So like for me, I think, the people that you surround yourself with can make a very big difference, because sometimes you might think you're not advancing, you're not progressing, and then you change your circle and it's something totally different. Now
maybe just to I told you I play golf earlier on. So in golf it's very interesting that for you to become a better golfer, you really need to keep on playing with people who are better than you. So if you keep playing with the people who are in your, around the same handicap with you, you don't get to learn. Because people who've played longer are better skilled. Even when you're walking on the course with them, you're able to see the decisions that they make. Because golf is a lot about decision making. So you may have the skill, but you see how they make the decisions, what they're thinking of when they're taking their next shot, how they play, how calm and composed they are. So playing with people who are better than you helps you become a better player.
Yeah.
But if you keep playing with people who are, say, and a lot of times when we're beginning golf, you're playing with people who are beginners, you will almost remain at that level for a number of years. But the people who've challenged themselves and played with people who are much better than them, they get better. So that's the analogy also for how you need to surround yourself with people who are much better than you. Surround yourself with people who are growing, because we're talking about the same thing. I mean, it's careers. you want to know these people who are keeping on, growing in their career at the pace that you want, not at the, this supersonic pace that maybe only a few are going to be doing. So once you surround yourself with them, you'll get to understand what is it that they're doing. How are they getting these jobs? How are they getting these interviews? When they go, how do they perform? Not that, you just hear your friend is going for an interview. All the best. But you never follow up to say, how was it? What did they look at? How did you feel after that? What do you think about the organization? In those conversations, you're able to understand a lot. And you're able to move yourself out of that comfort zone. You're able to grow. You're able to become better.
Right. And I think another mistake we make is that we think we have time. You finish you finish campus, you go, get your first job, and you think you have enough time. By the time you are getting your mortgage, you're told you only have 20 years, because it's only within 20 years that you are able to work. After that, you'll probably not be able to work. So we probably do not have enough time as we think to be the best people that we are supposed to be. So we need to start immediately, because then I know there are people who say, let me just wait another like 3 years. 3 years, COVID is going to come. Like the people who made plans, COVID came.
Yeah.
You make a plan, elections. You make a plan, you get married. You make a plan, kids come. So, you're not able to, do the things that you wanted to do. So how important is time and planning, Wycliffe, as we close?
For me, time is important, yes, but I've insisted, and if there's any takeout from today's discussion is that everyone has their time.
I actually really love it. I love that point. Yeah,
but it is pace. But it is important to start and take action towards where you're going.
Right.
Don't say that there's an issue about procrastination. People want to say, okay, I'll start this, and I'll if it's developing additional skills, okay, I'll enroll for my master's much later, or if it's you keep pushing
even
things.
Like the running,
yes,
you'd have said, I'm going to try like next month to
because
to
get to less than 1 hour.
So
I think time is important, but don't overstress on it, because everyone is running on their own
race
lane.
And race,
Yes, your own race, your own
lane.
So time is important, but you need to start and move at a pace that you're comfortable with. I think that's something that's very important.
Because you might end up injuring yourself. Keep up now.
Yes, exactly. You'll get hurt.
Like, I'll get hurt. I'll just walk.
Yes.
And,
you get hurt. So if you try and move faster than your ability, you'll get hurt.
You'll get hurt.
Yes.
You'll
and it'll be painful.
And
it'll be painful. And if you might pick up an injury and you'll never be able to run again.
And maybe instead of running, I can play tennis. And maybe I'll enjoy tennis, and maybe I'll burn the same amount of calories.
I get you. But from a time perspective, time is very important, but just move at the pace that you're comfortable with. And I think we're also talking to very different generations. Wow. So when I look at guys who are Gen Z, I don't know if we're Gen Z, Gen Y or X, and the millennials and all there's differences even in how they want. There's a microwave generation. There's people who want it now and they get it now.
Tell us which generation you're from. Tell us. Let's make it very clear.
I'm not sure. I know we call ourselves the millennials or Gen Ys.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, is it Gen Ys or Gen Zs? I keep forgetting. But, and it's fine, because I've seen fantastic, people who've grown in their leadership, and they're young.
Yeah.
They're about 30 and they're doing things that...
Amazing.
I look at them and we're at the same level. So... Also, there's a generational piece, but because they are used to it, they know that's their pace.
It's actually kawaida. Like,
it's their pace.
Normal.
It's their pace. So they'll learn faster, they'll network faster, they'll take the actions, they'll say, this is not working for me,
let's
move
change.
On to the next one. So even when we're speaking about different generations. And so we also have to take that into consideration, that we might be talking about the mindset of the guys who are the Gen Ys or Gen Zs, which is very different.
Yeah.
Or baby boomers and Generation X were slightly different in terms of their timing and pathing. But and there's nothing wrong, by the way, because you get fantastic leaders in their 20s and in their early 30s, which was not probably the case 10 years ago. And I just hope that one day in this country we'll have leaders in their 20s and 30s.
That would be amazing.
Because that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, they bring a lot to the table.
Yeah. Great. So as a parting shot, I don't know, three points that you'd want someone listening to go home with as far as complacency in their careers is concerned.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I said, if you're very comfortable with what it is that you're doing, if you're not challenged by, every time you go to the office, you're like, you can do this in your sleep, then there's probably a challenge. And you need to challenge yourself to be able to be uncomfortable, do things that you don't know about, learn. That already is one of the ways that you'll say you're breaking out of the complacency circle. The other thing is that be encouraged that everyone is running their own race. Everyone is using their own pace. And so don't look necessarily at others and see the path that they have taken is a path that you must take. Understand which pace works for you and follow that pace. I think that's very important. And finally, I think it is you who has the opportunity to make the decision of moving out of the comfort zone that you are in. So it's not anyone else is going to pick you out of there. I think it's really a lot of self-discovery and self-awareness that is going to help you now break out of where you're feeling a bit complacent in your career, and surround yourself with people who can be able to tell you whether you are doing well or not, especially when it comes to your career. We have friends for many things, but we tend to forget that we should also have friends within our professional circles who can understand us for what it is that we're doing and how we want to grow. So I think that's my parting shot.
Wow. I need like a minute to let all that simmer, simmer in. So guys, if you're watching, I hope you are taking down notes. I hope you have a lot of food for thought. One of the things I love to say is deep calls unto deep. It's going to be very sad if you left this earth without fully maximizing your potential. In fact, for me, I normally believe one of the worst tragedies that can happen in life is if you leave this earth, without fully maximizing your potential. That's a tragedy. And so having that conversation with yourself from very early on, from the minute you graduate, you're thinking about what are my strengths, my skills, and my passions? What kind of problems do I want to solve in the world? What is my capacity? What am I carrying? Why did God create me? What strengths, what skills do I have? What path do I want to follow? And as Wycliffe is saying, we are all different. We are all gifted differently. So your gift is not my gift. But then doing that analysis is going to help you come up with, some sort of a plan. So that then you are not taking jobs that are within your ability because of fear, because of imposter syndrome, because maybe even someone told you, you're not good enough, that you're constantly pushing yourself to be, to be better, that you are surrounding yourself with people who, bring out the best in you, who challenge you, because then sometimes you might think you're depressed and it's just because you are you're surrounding yourself with I don't know depressed what the French you're just surrounding yourself with bad people. Let me call them bad people who are just looking down upon you and telling you can't, you've never, bringing up your history, and you'll never advance in such an environment. So I hope you're going to take some time. This episode is supposed to, make you think and reflect and start making better decisions so that then you are advancing in your career. You can look back at 2022 and say, in August, this is where I started, and by December, this is the plan that I have. Maybe I've not done 100% of what I said I'm going to do, but there's a plan that, I want to get from point A to point Z. So, Wycliffe, thank you very much for coming for this episode. I hope it has been beneficial. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.